Hi, my name is Juan Bastida and I'm going to talk about the lobes of the brain and their functions. The cerebral cortex is divided into two cerebral hemispheres. These hemispheres are connected by the corpus callosum. These lobes are divided in four lobes: the frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital. As we know, these lobes has some different functions. Um, at first, I'm going to talk about the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is separated from the parietal lobe by a space called the central sulcus. And the frontal lobe is has higher executive functions, including emotional regulation, planning, reasoning, and problem solving. A common disease that happened in this lobe is the frontotemporal dementia. And then we have the parietal lobe. The parietal lobe is behind the frontal lobe, separated by the central sulcus. The parietal lobe has the characteristic that this lobe can discern from touch alone that two objects touching the skin at nervy points are distinct rather than one object. This process is called two-point discrimination. And then we have the temporal lobe. The temporal lobe is separated from the frontal lobe by the lateral fissure. These temporal lobes also contains regions dedicated to processing sensory information, particularly important for hearing, recognizing language, and forming memories. This lobe has so many functions, like the visual processing and the memory. This lobe contains the hippocampus. This region of this lobe in the brain are important because the hippocampus is important for the memory, learning, and for the emotions. Then we have the occipital lobe. The occipital lobe is the major visual processing center in the brain. The primary visual cortex receives visual information from the eyes. The information is sent to secondary visual processing areas. These areas interpret the information and has the ability to interpret the distance, location, and the identity of seen objects.